Salvian arrived at Arles. The travel from Ravenna to the capital of Gaul lasted about 10 days. Salvian first met Mark, who found him an apartment and introduced him to the officers and officials useful for his mission. Some of them are his former comrades who served with him under the command of Constantius. A few days later, Mark introduces him to Aetius, who meets the regent's liaison officer quite gently. "It is very well that it is you who are in charge of this mission. Now, after your trip to Hunland, you better understand the barbarian warriors." The imperial palace is filled with young courtiers who take themselves for officers and who are not at all capable of understanding the complexity of the situation. Have you visited Germany? No. I met the Goths only on the battlefields and among the Huns. You must then go to Toulouse and spend some time in the kingdom of the Visigoths. It is dangerous to visit the country of the Franks now. The situation there is far from calm. I will leave in 3 weeks for the northern border. You can accompany me to Orleans. I will leave you with the Alans on the banks of the Loire. Salvian willingly accepts this proposition. Aetius asks him, "It is said that Orestes accepted Attila's proposal to go to her service and the regent authorized her to go to the Huns with her family. I saw him recently. He told me that it was more difficult to convince his father Tatul and Count Romulus, his father-in-law, than the regent. Romulus naturally worries about his daughter. Tatul is my compatriot of Pannonia and Orestes must have seen the Huns since his childhood. Does he speak Hun?" He did not speak, but we learned the most common sentences during our journey. Aetius invites Salvian to dinner at his house. The passage of the Roman ambassador to the service of the Huns is naturally the main theme of the conversations. The wife of Aetius and the officers ask Salvian many questions on this subject. In order to change the theme of discussion, Mark remarks, "Why do you wonder when all the officials and officers of the Chinese Empire have gone into the service of the Huns?" Stunned, people stop talking and look at each other. Content of the effect of his statement, Mark smiles and says, "I am talking about the foundation in China of the imperial dynasty of the Taogasts or Tabgachas which are related to the Huns we know." Latorius, the most senior officer of Aetius, remarks, "It would be well to introduce the Huns to the Roman civilization. As the Gauls and other ancient barbarian peoples of our provinces are at present initiated." Posthume, another officer, frowns, warning, "I do not consider my ancestors as barbarians." Conciliating, Latorius apologizes and says, "I have also Gauls among my ancestors. This does not prevent me from recognizing that the Gauls had no writing, elaborate architecture and did not have a state organization worthy of the name." Posthume replies strongly, "The Greeks regarded the Romans as a barbarous people. It was they who initiated the Romans into writing and architecture. The Gauls have taught the Romans, for example, to make barrels which are more convenient and more solid than the Greek and Roman amphorae." Aetius, a very erudite Gallic officer, adds in order to relax the atmosphere, Pliny writes, that the ambassadors of Carthage, who were received in several noble Roman families, were astonished to see everywhere the same service of silver. In fact, all these noble families lent themselves one single silver service for large receptions. Everyone laughs, their hands go to the golden cups, decorated by the famous Gallic enamel and filled with the finest Narbonne wines. At that time, as Attila explained to me almost 7 centuries ago, the First Hun Empire reached the summit of its power and grandeur. The nobility wore the finest Chinese silk, drank and ate in golden dishes encrusted with precious and semi-precious stones. The Huns had their writing, and their officials made every year the census of the population for administrative purposes. They have imperial traditions older than us. Competent. After his journey in this domain, Salvian adds, Khan Modon, founder of the First Hun Empire, in my opinion, carried out a religious reform. What strikes me particularly is that the Huns believe that the power of the Khan is sufficient, if it is just and its state is powerful, for in this case its power is certainly given by God. The insubordination to the Khan is also the insubordination to God, which intervenes very little in earthly affairs. It is a religion that was born in a truly powerful empire. Surprised by this statement, Aetius looks at him with interest. Then he turns to the other guests who are also impressed and surprised.